Would today's children believe how an ordinary morning once began? The letterbox rattled, the floor felt cold beneath bare feet, and somewhere a kettle hummed softly. Children buttoned coats, checked the time on the mantel clock, and stepped outside alone, without a second thought. No grand speeches about resilience, no lessons labeled as character building. Back then, children weren't trained to be tough. They were trusted to be capable. That expectation shaped everything, quietly and steadily. Looking back now, it feels almost unbelievable how normal it all was, and that everyday normality is where the story truly begins for us. To understand why children of the 1950s seem so capable, we have to step back into a country quietly rebuilding itself. Britain, after the war, wasn't dramatic anymore. It was practical. Streets were mended, homes were modest, and families learned to make do without complaint. Utility furniture filled living rooms, hand-me-down clothes passed between siblings, and nothing useful was thrown away lightly. Neighborhoods felt closer then. Doors were often left unlocked, and everyone knew who lived 3 houses down. Children grew up surrounded by adults who expected contribution, not applause. You helped because that's what families did, and because someone always depended on you. There were no talks about resilience or emotional strength, no charts, no slogans, no parenting manuals explaining why these habits mattered. Back then, nothing was framed as a lesson. It was just life unfolding day by day. Through routines, small responsibilities, and shared effort, children absorbed confidence without noticing it happening. That quiet foundation shaped how they faced the world, and it set the tone for everything that came next. It was within these ordinary surroundings that expectations quietly settled in, preparing young minds for independence long before anyone thought to name it at all then. Most people forget how trusted children once were. After breakfast, coats were shrugged on and doors closed behind them, and that was that. Streets, parks, bits of waste ground, and open fields became classrooms without walls. Children learned where they were welcome, where to tread carefully, and how to sort things out among themselves. This wasn't neglect. It was faith in young people's ability to cope. Hours passed marked only by the changing light and the sound of a distant whistle or church bell. If a problem arose, it was talked through, argued over, and resolved, usually without adult involvement. Boundaries existed, but they were learned through experience, not constant reminders. Today, childhood often runs on timetables, messages, and careful supervision. Back then, freedom came first, and confidence followed naturally. That freedom taught children how to judge situations, manage small risks, and look after one another. It's a striking contrast, and it helps explain why independence felt so natural to that generation, setting the stage for responsibilities they would carry. Growing older in the 1950s often meant being given small jobs that carried real meaning. You might be sent out with a folded note for the local shop, coins counted carefully in your pocket, expected to remember prices and bring back the correct change. Others watched younger brothers or sisters for an hour, or helped an elderly neighbor with a simple task. These moments weren't announced as chores. They were quiet signals that you were trusted. This wasn't about pressure. It was about belonging. Being useful made you feel part of something larger than yourself. Adults relied on you, and that reliance built confidence in a way no praise ever could. You learned how to speak to grown-ups, how to follow through, how to handle a mistake without panic. Today, childhood often aims to remove responsibility for as long as possible. Back then, responsibility arrived early, gently, and naturally. Those small duties stitched children into their communities, preparing them for a wider world where self-belief mattered most of all. Possessions were few, but imaginations were not. With little to buy, and even less to replace, children learned to stretch what they had. Chalk marks turned pavements into worlds of their own, and a cardboard box could become a shop, a bus, or a secret hideaway. Games were invented on the spot, rules argued over, and then played again the next day without complaint. Inside, the radio filled quiet rooms with familiar voices, stories, and songs, becoming a shared background to ordinary afternoons. There was comfort in repetition, in knowing what came next, and in making the most of it. Here's something childhood today rarely teaches: how to be content. Modern life offers endless choice and instant distraction. But that earlier simplicity built patience and emotional steadiness. Children learned to wait, to adapt, and to find joy without needing more. That ability to make do stayed with them, shaping outlooks and attitudes long after childhood faded, quietly influencing everything. You didn't think of yourself as tough, but looking back, you were. Those early years left marks that lasted a lifetime, even if no one ever named them. Adults who grew up in the 1950s carried a quiet confidence into work, family, and community life. When problems appeared, they were approached calmly, practically, without fuss. There was pride, but little need to show it. Strength existed without drama, built on habits learned young. Make do, think things through, keep going. Emotional steadiness came from knowing you could handle yourself, because you always had. Today we often talk about resilience as something to be taught or measured. Back then, it simply emerged. That understated toughness showed itself in reliability, patience, and a willingness to get on with things. It wasn't loud or attention-seeking, but it was deeply dependable. That reliability shaped lives long after childhood memories quietly softened and faded. What we have today is different, not better or worse, just changed. Children are safer in many ways, better understood, and surrounded by comfort unimaginable in the 1950s. Yet something subtle may have slipped away. Trust has been replaced by oversight, freedom by planning. The old world asked children to step up quietly. The new one often steps in for them. This isn't about blame or longing for harder times. It's an invitation to remember what trust once gave. Because toughness didn't come from hardship alone. It came from being trusted.